You're listening to All Things 3D, where we talk about the world of fabricating, designing, and capturing in the third dimension.
Hey, everybody. Wow. Google Wonderland. That was pretty cool.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
So it'll be in the show notes. There's a couple links out to this. So Chris, what is today?
Today is January 15th, 2016. It is our Week in Review Friday podcast. I'm Chris.
And I'm Mike. And we've got the Miniatur Wunderland with us.
That was awesome.
Let's go through some of the slides. And
for the people that are just listening, and you gotta get out and check this out. Just like Mike said, the link will be in the show notes. It's pretty fun.
Yeah.
They had like a jet airliner that flew and stuff. That was cool.
Yeah, it's super cool. Well, the company behind this, and let's see if I can bring it up. I was hoping to have them on. Come on.
These people are like professional kids.
I'm sorry.
They're professional kids.
Yeah, but oh geez, I thought I had a note in here, so I don't know where it went. But essentially, I was hoping to have on a group who actually put this together. They do mapping services, Wonderland or something, I can't remember. I'll find it in a moment. But what they did is they actually had to create a miniature version of the streetcar to create those panoramics and to actually get an idea. All those videos you saw are actual panoramic videos that you can get around.
Oh, wow. You can actually... So that little Google streetcar is like a pretend, but they actually did a street view type thing.
Exactly.
What?
Yeah. and there are tons of them that you can
And they have
through.
That famous music festival that has the big clock and everything. And oh, wow. That's cool.
The Oktoberfest.
Here's the little October festival in Bavaria.
This is from a little tiny town, but because it's normally huge.
They don't show the drunk chick passed out by the wall, though. Actually, they might. I don't know. I haven't gone into detail in this.
Well, I'm going to bring up this little video, or not video, this little slide. This is one of the slides from the image. If you notice, they went down the Grand Canyon
with the Grim Reaper.
I thought that was kind of
That
funny.
is classic.
But yeah, very cool. Best to go out and check it out yourself. There is quite a few of them. Let's see if I can go back to, yeah, if you go to Explore Wonderland, like I said, both these links will be in there. You can actually hot link to any of theirs. Like we can go to Hamburg, we can go to Scandinavia. They have, what is it, Austria, and then here's America. I guess they think of Las Vegas as part of America, but actually looks pretty cool at night. So there are tons of things. They're all Street View compatible, which means in both Android and iOS, it will convert them into Google Cardboard. So you can get, and I don't know if it'll be 3D or not, but it'll give you the ability to be in the center of it and looking around in miniature.
Wow.
Some of the comments that I read on this was that some people were creeped out. I don't know if I think you chuckled at the conductor who actually moved, because somebody said, "Oh, I wonder if these little people would move," and then it moved.
You, like, looked over at it,
and they
at
were
the
a little
camera,
bit,
like totally.
yeah. Oh wow! So that's
Cinematic
Vintage Wonderland. I'm hoping to have them on to kind of talk about how much 3D printing was involved in this. Obviously, photogrammetry may have been involved, as well as panoramic videos, as we just saw. So it'd be cool to find out about some of the tech, and obviously they had to use very small cameras to do that. So let's get on to some other cool 3D printing technology. And you know what? I don't know. We're supposed to be covering this stuff, and this was the first time I heard of it. If I had actually made it out to CES, I might have seen this, but this is the new Pro 3D. Now, there's a little bit of a backstory behind this. I guess there was a Kickstarter, and I think we even covered it, that they were in contentions with either a Kickstarter or Indiegogo, and the Kickstarter actually failed for this company. And some rumors that it's because these people had complained that, you know, they were borrowing technology. I'll just put it like that. But if you go through this, let's see, I don't have an actual video for this one, but if you go through this, they talk about the difference in speeds. Here's an SLA, 690 minutes, 210 minutes, PolyJet, 180, 4.5 minutes, all for that same object that you just saw earlier, which is this one here, which is also the same shape that was done by the Carbon 3D. Notice they didn't specifically identify the time for the Carbon 3D, which I think was like 6 minutes. But they do identify that in the video that somebody did for interviewing at CES. The quality, they don't have that many. Let's see if we can, yeah, they've got some videos here. They do talk about the technology a little bit, but here's an actual print, obviously the Eiffel Tower, but the big difference is how long did that actual print take? About 4.5 minutes. So if this is true, now they talk about their wettable membrane, and I've heard this term being used elsewhere in some conversations. You know, unlike the Carbon 3D, which I guess was a porous type material that allowed you to oxygenate, which kept that barrier, which allowed you to do the controlled flow. I don't know if this is similar. I haven't done any research on it, but it just kind of came out of the blue, and I thought, wow, wouldn't it be kind of cool to talk about this? Anyway,
Yeah.
it looks cool. Don't know the pricing. Nothing's identified yet.
Yeah, and I think that's the other thing is the thing about the pricing that you mentioned is, you know, the Carbon 3D printer, very fast, very cool from what we've seen, from what very little we've seen. And the interesting thing though is if it's 10 times the cost for the printer and you could buy 10 of the Form 2 machines, you know, for the same price, I'd much rather have 10 of those than one that's 10 times faster, right? Because you could be printing 10 different things at the same time. You could be running different resins. You know, you could be running, you know, if one goes offline, you still have 9 to, you know, so it's
the key. When I had started is that, you know, if you put all your money in one basket, if it goes out, you're kind of out of, and as you said, you want some flexibility in the type of materials. So if you want to dedicate one, and I found dedicating a machine to a particular type of material is best in my opinion, because I've had issues switching out materials. Now, let's see, I don't have, let's see if their videos here show it. Like I said, they had one that was done at CES that actually showed the device, and here, you can look at the bed here. It still seems like a prototype. It's pretty crude, essentially out of sheet metal. Are you looking at it, Chris?
Yeah, I am now. Wow.
So it is pretty interesting. However, like we've talked about, it appears to have no price, which normally means it's not going to be very cheap. Plus, we don't know how reliable it is. We don't know the type of software. And, Chris, you've got something to talk about a little bit later, don't you? Along the
Yeah.
oscillating line. So we'll leave that to a little bit later, but it starts with a form and ends with a 2, if I remember correctly.
It does.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on into our next item. What did they do out at CES with the Star Wars, Chris?
Well, so check this out. This is really, really cool. This was kind of like a highlight of the show, I guess. Neither Mike or I were able to make it out there, but you can, I know, maybe next year. So the amazing 3D printed Star Wars The Force Awakens Stormtrooper was the hit of CES 2016. This is via 3dprint.com, and you can read about it. The link will be in the show notes. But there was apparently a giant 3D Systems had a giant Stormtrooper model. I guess J.J. Abrams used a lot of 3D printing to print models in the Force Awakens movie, which I did finally see in 3D.
What'd you think?
It's my favorite Star Wars.
Good.
Can you believe that? Most people were like, meh, whatever. And I was like, that was like really good movie. It was great. I love how it tied a lot of things together. I don't want to spoiler anybody, but if you haven't seen it, but pretty much everybody I think seen it by now. So, but you could check out images of this Stormtrooper. It is phenomenally detailed. I mean, they've got like some sort of overmolding they've done. I mean, crazy.
My screen that has a bit larger images.
A little bit better image.
Yeah, I mean, this thing is extremely impressive. Everything was 3D printed, including the gun. Notice, though, it's in the 3D Systems booth. And I've noticed 3D Systems has done a good job in the last year of coming up with some very either heartwarming or specific, what do you want to call it, fabrications based upon hit movies or things like that. I don't know what it will do. They just shut down their Cubify home section. So, but this was done with one of their industrial 3D printers. But I do have a link. Let's see. Did I put it in there? Go ahead and talk about a little bit more, but I do have a link to the guy.
I think this is another example. Like 3D Systems is probably trying to really show off how they're different than kind of like some of the other home printers, and I think they're kind of showcasing a lot of that here. If you're going to build gigantic models and you need that smooth surface finish, and you're going to be doing it professionally, then one of those sintering machines from 3D Systems is probably the way to go.
I have to say I really like it, but it's way out of my price range. The Sinterect, which we talked about, I should have gotten in on that, but didn't have the money. So this is the guy who did it, Anavas, which I'm hoping that we can have on the show, but he actually is not only created that life scale, and they've got some pricings here that I'll go through in a minute, but you can get the First Order helmet. You can get the Kylo Ren helmet, but it goes through here. You can go through each of them, but I'll go right to the Star Wars. So here they are. So if you want any of these, the pricing obviously is a little steep for me, but if you're into this type and you want something dramatic.
Are these costumes or are they
cosplay? They're costumes. So in these cases, these are 3D printed parts. So if you wanted to be an actual stormtrooper and then you could actually buy it for $650.
That's actually not that bad for
not for the whole outfit. And then let's say here's the one that we just looked at. That was at 3D. If you actually want a full scale version of $8,500, but some people have that kind of pocket change. If you want this Darth Vader costume, $2,750. So yeah, if you've got a few dollars and you really want to push the envelope. Obviously, they've got other areas as well. They have the specifically to this Force Awakens, so you can go through and actually get any of these type of helmets or full-scale objects. I don't know what the Imperial collection is. Okay, so maybe that's just the Imperial. Let's see what else we've got. Oh, the Rebel uniform. Let's see what we got for novelty. So obviously this guy uses 3D fabrication to create a lot of, and important thing is he's licensed. So he's actually gone out and I think he's got the license to do Star Trek items, license to do obviously Star Wars. So I don't know what that cost him, but obviously he's got some great stuff. So kind of cool. So this is the man behind the 3D Systems item if you weren't aware of it. And if you've got $8,500 and don't know what to do with it, why don't you get yourself a full scale? It's up for pre-order. All right, on to something a little less novel and fun. And let's see where we're at here. That would be our 3D in medical. And I thought not only is this heartwarming, but essentially, and this happens more times than not, we have conjoined babies, and sometimes they grow up to be conjoined adults, but a lot of times they don't ever make it to adult because they share organs or something, and then eventually either one of them dies, which means both of them sometimes die, or one of them die when they separate the two because they can't share the organs. But in this particular case, they were sharing, I think, the liver, and here they actually are, and this would have been something that probably wouldn't have been operable in the past, but thanks again to 3D, they were able to do some scanning and then actually look at the vascular system around the liver and actually be able to determine what they could cut in order to ensure that both had, the proper, I guess, I'm thinking they probably cut the liver in half, but they also had to obviously cut the vascular and arterial systems in half in order for it to be shared. But they used 3D, I guess a technique called CAST 3D computer system. I don't know specifically what that is, but they obviously 3D modeled it so that they could look at it and interact with it to determine what they were going to cut. And then I saw this and I thought this was kind of interesting. They had this actually in the surgical room, but notice what they've got. It looks like a Kinect type device, and the Kinect type device uses hand gestures, so they're able to manipulate the image without actually touching the screen.
He can actually karate chop
okay,
the model in half.
Yeah, but what I think is important is that I don't know how sterilized this particular thing. More than likely it was. I noticed the particular surgeon here doesn't have a glove on, so he probably wasn't performing surgery at the time. This is probably a demo image, but they were probably able to move the image around without actually touching it or just turning around without actually having to physically remove themselves from the operating table. So I thought that was a kind of neat use. I have heard of Hisense. You can find that at Walmart. No, just kidding. Well, at least they're using their product maybe on a budget, but here's the actual operation being performed. But they say that it was very successful, and the important thing is that something like this would have probably had a lot of blood loss in the past, but in this case only 30 milliliters was lost, which I think is a significant improvement over what could have occurred in the past. So again, another story of how 3D printing technology and scanning has evolved and is assisting in the surgical process. So I thought that was very, very cool. So on to 3D scanning in our Scanner Darkly section.
Yeah.
Something that I was hoping to see if I had made it to CES was Shining 3D. They had some cool products last year that were very reasonably priced that I was looking at, and now they have this Einscan Prone, which essentially looks very similar to either the Faro handheld or the Artec, and essentially it is a LED light modulation system using LEDs, and if notice it's got lights on both sides with a camera. So I'm kind of curious if if they're stepping on some patent toes here. I do notice that one of the products they do sell is the Artec Ava. So maybe they've got some type of collaboration. Maybe it's a completely new novel experience. But it shows that you can use this thing in multiple ways. And then they have some models. Now, one of the models, let's see if I can get it, looks pretty good. And again, thank you, Sketchfab, for allowing people to put 3D models up. This one looks, in my opinion, pretty cool and clean. And I don't know how much work went into it, but it does look fairly detailed. So I'm pretty impressed with that. But the one that I'm not impressed with is this one here, because this can be done on a $200 scanner. I notice there's very little resolution in the face itself. And it looks a lot like what, in fact, actually less than what I can do with my 4-Eyes lens system. So I'm not really compelled to think that I think it's close to $4,000 scanner excels, other than one of the things that they identified is in order to do this, they have stitching built into it. So that may be one of the reasons they went with a lower quality. Not sure, but you can find out more about the specifications. The point or 100 micron accuracy, which is pretty good at 15 frames per second, does reference point alignment, which is very similar to other scanning systems. But then the handheld rapid scan uses feature alignment, which is very similar to what some of the other products like Occipital use. So maybe that's the big difference in why you don't have the same amount of quality. So you go from 0.1 to 3, and 300 or 0.3 millimeters is about the low end of the Occipital as well. So that may account for it. But for $4,000, you know, you got a product that you're going to be bringing up here in a minute. That particular product, or this one, is about $4,000. Most of the Artecs, their low end is about $10,000 and goes up. The Ferros start around 20, 30, if I remember correctly, and they normally don't publish their pricing. I had to find that out through some scouring. But you have a Ferro product that just came out, correct?
That's right. Yeah. So I got an email about this from Ferro, and they apparently have released the Cobalt 3D Imager, which is a system that's can be used. It's mostly for CAD verification. So if you have machined parts, 3D printed parts, you know, manufactured parts, even sheet metal bends, it's a system that's designed to be, and it's got an interchangeable lens system so that you can, you know, change the kind of the, I guess the focal length of the lens, so that depending on your viewing area or how far the scanner is from the object, you know, you can change that lens out. So it's meant to be mounted on a tripod or onto even a robotic arm. And they've got a really cool video that you can head out and watch on their website, and kind of shows off the technology a little bit, and shows it doing some scans. And it's really designed, I think, mostly for verification of geometry.
Well, I noticed that it's on a computer-driven arm, so it's a multi.
Well, it's meant to be mounted. It's meant to be mounted on to an arm or a tripod. It doesn't have to be mounted on a robotic arm, but in a manufacturing situation where it's verifying, you know, the deviations on geometry of parts, then that's what it's, you know, you would typically do that in a manufacturing setting. It's mounted on a robot arm. And so here it is, verifying the geometry of a part, scanning it in. Yeah, so pretty cool looking scanner. I'm not sure how much this costs. I haven't inquired, but I'm sure it's probably about a $40,000 scanner if I had to take a stab. Somewhere in the, let's say, $25,000 to $40,000 scanner.
I would say probably about 40 to 50. Their handheld that they came out with that I did cover appeared to be about a $30,000, and this seems to be a little bit more elaborate than that. Now, keep in mind that you get a full a suite of software along with it. As you said, it's used to provide analysis of component structure. So it's probably very predictable, very, we're going to call it accurate for what it does. So, I mean, you get what you pay for. However, as we have already found out in the 3D fabrication market, the technologies are allowing things to come down in price without actually changing the quality of the parts.
And here, this just to mention, Faro, has been doing this. They make parts for all kinds of different things, robots in particular. But if you, this picture kind of says a lot to me. Is they obviously have training centers all over the world, and you can go and you can learn the ins and outs of the processes, and you can become proficient in using their products by going and so you get what you pay for a little bit. So
yeah, and if I remember correctly, aren't they based in Switzerland?
I don't know where worldwide headquarters is for Faro. Yeah, that sounds about right though.
Well, like you said, you get what you pay for. If you're looking for a quality and accurate scanner, then that may be the direction that you should head to. Okay, I haven't actually tried one. I've seen that one as well as the Artec when I was at CES last year. Yeah, they work pretty well. The Artec, on the other hand, was kind of interesting. I found that you had the guy that was running it had the Artec in one hand and then a fairly heavy laptop in the other as he was scanning. So I said, boy, you probably had to build a few. And the guy seemed a little muscular. So I said, did you get that from working out with this thing? And he just kind of laughed at that. But he said, yeah, it gets a little tiring after a while. And I mean, it took him a while. But if you've seen some of the Artecs with their little Ava, the results can be fairly stunning, but it takes some time to get those stunning results. All right, well, on to, and I've got plenty of cover in our VR corner in a round room. So I'll start it off with a little thing from our friends over at Sketchfab. So I kind of broke this in as a tweet a couple of weeks ago when they were talking about, or actually it was a little article on how they used Google Cardboard to I guess, collaborate between, I think it was Minnesota and Florida on a operation for a child and who had some congenital heart issues. And one of the things that was identified, obviously, was the Google Cardboard, but what wasn't identified was how Sketchfab was the actual platform that the 3D model was looked at. So I had written Albin, who's the CEO of Sketchfab. I said, so wouldn't it be kind of great if you kind of had a button to do VR right from the web? And he just kind of chuckled. I said, we're on it. And actually they were. So last week I noticed that the actual button was available. In fact, I tweeted it, but here it is. So you can now it is WebGL only, but you can use it on a mobile platform. In fact, if you try to use it on the desktop, it doesn't work. It tells you to be on a mobile platform. Now, the thing is, even though it's Google Cardboard, or at least has the emblem, it's not actually Google Cardboard because it doesn't take any of the references of the Google Cardboard device. So it means it has common IPD and other standard deviations. Essentially, it's just two flat planes, so it doesn't take into consideration of the lens system, which Google Cardboard does. So maybe that will come out in a supposed app in the future. So if you're always wanting an app from Sketchfab, that may be sooner than later. But back to it, one of the things that you have to keep in mind when using Sketchfab, because Sketchfab allows you to bring in models of very large proportions. However, to view them on a mobile device, and I have actually tried this, it becomes an issue if you have a lot of voxels or faces. So they have this quick little guide on how to do it. And this little scene here, the Western scene, is from our favorite, Rustlin, who did the Inside Van Gogh that I showed off some time ago. So he's getting a lot of press from this as well. But it tells you what you need to do for a mobile device. Keep your geometry low. So if you're into using Unity or Unreal Development Kit, you already know how to keep your polygon geometry low. Use sensible texture maps. I mean, don't create these huge, horrendous ones because all these have to be rendered. And then also keep in mind, even though it supports animation, how much you can actually animate is obviously lower in WebGL, especially in iOS, as they indicate. And then again, here's a little demo, which again, I can't show, but it is available. Like it says, insert in your Google Card. Well, actually, we can see it here. So this is what it would look like. So it does provide a little distortion, but again, it's fixed. It's not based upon whatever you're using for your viewer. And so this is what you would see. Now,
Wow.
again, I think, let's see, you do have the ability to do a first person. So you can use your, you can use your WSAD keys to kind of traverse like it was a first person, but if you notice, they're a little twitchy. I don't know if they accept a little Bluetooth keyboard on your mobile device. So I don't know if you would try it, but but yes, so you have the ability now to any of the Sketchfab, not just the ones from Wonderland, but anything that's out there. So I thought that was kind of cool. And then it tells you about the camera. It tells you what you should set your field of view to. It says you cannot move around in a cardboard scene. So you have to keep that in mind. It's from a particular point. And again, I don't know if it utilizes the Bluetooth keyboard. If it does, then obviously you can put it in the first person view and be able to move around. But if you're creating something, you should probably keep that in mind that you can't. So you need to pivot. And what I would suggest is like what I've done in mine, make sure you're at the point of view so that you can rotate around and see what you want in the environment. I noticed a lot of them, especially Wonderland, that I had to go back and convert. It was like from a stage view. So I had to actually immerse myself and finish some of the modeling on it to make it an entire room. So that's about it. Also has some other tips, but if you're wanting to put something up on Sketchfab that can be used in Google Cardboard or other VR viewing device, it's a nice little article and probably more to come. And as mentioned, a lot of the stuff out there is already ready for it. So if you've got nothing to do this weekend because it might be raining, might be an opportunity to go out to Sketchfab and look at some more fun stuff in your Google Cardboard or equivalent. Okay, awesome. So I'm going to run on right on to the next item. So this one I'll bring up because it's news, but at the same time, it kind of aggravates me a little bit. One of the reasons is, and I appreciate The Verge creating an article, but they kind of identify this is the first time that we'll be able to immerse ourselves in a mobile device that we can walk around in. Well, that kind of is disturbing to me because I'd say 7-8 months ago, a product called Miniatur VR, along with the occipital structure sensor, and my friends out at Hamada were able to create essentially this and have had 7 months to refine it. And we have some new stuff that'll be coming out very shortly. So it's a little disappointing. I do appreciate that whoever did this article not only talks about it, but talks about their experience with it not being very good. The latency was a problem. The delay in the frames was a problem. And one of the things that was also brought up, and I did a little bit of review, is this Ion VR. Again, another product I don't know a lot about. But the guy claims, and I did a little bit of research, that he's created an optic system that completely eliminates, VR sickness. And, I'm a little puzzled by that. As you know, I'm coming out with the Loop, which uses a 50mm lens, and that, because it has such a wide peripheral, actually reduces it. So I'm wondering if it's something similar. The guy says he has something patent pending on it, so he doesn't really talk about it. I don't know what it's involved with. Some people have viewed it, think that it actually works. However, in this particular article, he says that it did not help with his VR sickness, and again, maybe because of the slow refresh rate using this. I have heard others say that this product is still not ready for prime time. The cool thing is that, and also it's fairly heavy and it's large. It's about 6 inches. So I did some comparison. I took the measurements of it to create a faceplate for the Loop. It's about 30% larger in order to create that faceplate. So it's going to be a big device to put on the front of your face. Now, in saying that, everything is self-contained, which is one of the reasons I'm ordering one, unlike our product with the structure sensor, which has to attach to it. But I will say this, and they did announce it at CES, they have finally come out with a standalone, they call it the core, that is essentially the sensors without the case. In fact, it now comes with stereo sensors specifically for this kind of stuff. And just say that there's going to be something in the future that will combine all this into one package. So that's all I can say right now. But yeah, appears everybody's moving forward with this. I look forward to seeing more from it, but currently some people are complaining about the frame rate not being very extensive. And as you know, with OR surgery and a few others that I've created, they're pretty elaborate. So I know that you can do a lot with the iPhone 6s Plus. It doesn't have the best screen, but in saying that, and I'm going to talk about that in a little bit, it holds its own, and because of the processor and the GPUs with metal, it actually performs pretty well, and I'm very pleased with it. All right, so that's the Intel. That leads me right into my next subject. If you've got a DK2 and you're complaining about the lens system, this actually came out in July of 2015, but I thought it would go hand in hand because I have a feeling this is probably one of the ways that the guy has gone around creating a lens system. But essentially, my lens system, as well as the Oculus, which is actually a smaller lens, uses a standard, it's called a plano concave lens, or I'm sorry, convex lens. And this one's about 40 millimeters in the DK2. And they use software in order to modify some of the issues that occur with it, which is chromatic aberration, as well as physical or optical distortions. Microsoft using, and I was hoping to actually find it, they've got a little kit that allows you to design lens systems off the shelf, because they have a full library of lenses from like Edmunds and Thor Labs. And here they show some comparisons of the actual image. And the thing that's very important, the top items are the images from the lens, is the chromatic aberration. Notice what you see down here in the bottom. Notice it's fuzzy. You see some yellow and reds. Up here, it's more defined. You just see some green. Same thing over here on the edge. And so what I have done, and I'll get right into it, is I created this pattern, and I am going to put out this weekend a full testing of about a dozen VR systems that I've had over the course of 2 years, including the new Gear VR and testing the lens system, because I think the optics are very important. And what I found that most of them, either for cost or weight, have gone with plastic, and I feel there's some issues with it. And they've done some things that may or may not help with it. Also, the magnification is different on them, and that may affect on how much of the image you see, which then creates more of a tunnel vision, which I think kind of avoids it. And the big reason that I put this together is because I wanted personally to have something to measure how good my Neo DVR loop is, and then also make comparisons. And in some areas, it's really, really well. Some areas, it's a little weak. But this will be coming out sometime, and this is the pattern I created. And essentially, if you put this, and I've got it in several styles, and I'll make sure that they'll be available when I put out the article. But you can load anywhere from a 4K image all the way down to a 1280p image into your phone, and it's set up in such a way that you can see this as VR images. So things pop out, which are kind of cute. And also put in some color bars in there so that you can check the distortion specifically to a particular primary color, or the additive of the two primary colors, which is red, green, and blue. And then their additives, which is yellow and cyan. And this gives you an idea of what areas the particular lens distorts the most. And that's essentially what happens, is because of the roundness of a lens, and I'll just make it very basic, it creates some issues with, back to my with the the way that it handles the light by bending it. And if you've ever seen a rainbow, well, that's the same kind of, there's a lot of refraction issues, which causes some of the ghosting, some of the what do you want to call it? I call them chromatic aberrations, but the trailing on the edges and so forth. And the higher the contrast of the image, that's why there's a lot of black and white edges. This is where you see it more pronounced. And I also threw in my own Google Cardboard register icon for the Loop Plus as part of that. So this will be available. So if you want to test out your own to see how it matches, this was done all with a Micro Four Thirds camera, along with some reference images, so that you can see it again. Gosh, I don't know. I'd say about a dozen different VR viewers. I had a chance to actually run through the test, including the DK2. So you can see how well your DK2 will run up against some of the mobile optic systems. So I think that's about it on my end. What do we got?
I've got one more VR. No, I've got one more VR. I snuck in there because this one caught my attention. We haven't talked about this. And the Avegant Glyph. Have we not? We haven't talked about it, right?
I'm drawing a blank, so.
Okay. The Avegant Glyph. It sounds an awful like Oculus Rift. So at first it looks like headphones, but it's actually a screen.
Oh,
and it's not actually even a screen. It's actually uses new, kind of like Google Glass, and it actually projects directly into your eye, a screen, and you still get the sense of peripheral. So you can still see above and below. So you still have a sense of awareness in your surroundings. And you can take a look. They have a really good video. They have a really good video over at their site about it at avegant.com. It's avegant.com. You can kind of check it out. Here's a guy. It hooks into almost any video source, including the iPhone. They're Tested even has an episode that they put out, I think yesterday or the day before, where they are flying drones with the first-person drones with it. You can actually fly the new 3DR Solo with it because it has an HDMI, and these are already available for pre-order. They're expected to ship, I think, sometime in the next month, possibly two. And I think they're about, you can pre-order them for $5.99. I think they go up to $6.99 sometime next week.
Actually, Chris, we did talk about this, gosh, when they first were coming out with the prototypes. If I remember correctly, this is the product that actually uses lasers directly into the eye itself. Excuse me. So it's a little different than other products that are out there, if I remember.
And it apparently is adjustable on the top here. You can adjust it. You can actually adjust for people that wear glasses, so you don't even have to wear glasses. And it got a lot of coverage. It got quite a bit of coverage at CES. It won Best in CES. So yeah, so pretty cool.
Now it's interesting. They don't really tout this as a VR device, but more of a display device, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So it's not necessarily a VR. It doesn't. I don't think it even has accelerometers in it to do any sort of head tracking or anything. But I could see having, it's a head mounted display is really what it is, and I could see probably having some sort of second iteration of this going towards that, so.
No, actually, I do remember talking about this when they were first starting with it, gosh, maybe a year and a half ago. And we did bring it up on the show, and it looks like a polished product now. $5.99, seems a little steep to me, but, what is the actual Oculus Rift costing, or the new consumer version?
Today's the last day you can get it for $5.99. It shoots up to $6.99 tomorrow.
Okay, well, I would have to have some money to do that. But it looks like a cool product. If you do a lot, they show one of the examples there of on an airplane being used. I like the big cups. I'm hoping the audio matches the video quality. More than likely it does. But yeah, it looks like a really neat product. Without any support on top of the head, I'm wondering how it stays positioned directly over the eyes. Maybe it's light enough that that little plastic bar doesn't really pivot too much. But yeah, again, these are the reasons why you go to CES, because then I could actually try it, like I did with a couple of other products last year. So more reasons to be sad. Okay. Well, pretty cool. Glad you slipped that one in there.
Yeah.
And well deserved. They had some really cool technology. And yes, it does reflect directly into the eye. So it makes it a little different than some of the other technologies. Okay, on that note, we are on into our new section. Not new, actually. We're into the Print Whisperer. You know, you've got something that I've been wanting to hear about for 2 weeks now.
Okay, so we'll talk first about... Okay, so the Form 2 finally came together. It didn't work out of the box.
What did you say? What did you say?
Form 2 showed up. It showed up, you know, a little late, obviously, and it didn't work out of the box. Very disappointed that it didn't work out of the box. It wanted a firmware update, and my computer or the machine wouldn't accept. It wouldn't actually. I couldn't do anything. The power button didn't work. Nothing worked on the machine. I thought it was bricked, but luckily I paid for that Pro service plan, which came in handy because the back and forth chatter to Formlab support, they really helped me out. They walked me through it, and they sent me some firmware to upload to the machine that fixed it. And now the first parts are coming off. You got to check these out. The surface finish on these parts is just...
Now, how large would you say that part is?
This part is about, I want to say it's exactly 6 inches by 5.5 inches, probably.
No, that's fairly significant. If I remember, now is that the largest part you can make?
No,
I know that the bed size is bigger.
Oh yeah, the bed size is much bigger than the part that I made. It actually oriented it in a weird way too to get that surface finish. I'll show you the supports, and the supports actually snapped off relatively easily. I don't know if you can see this, but this is the supports for the piece, and they came off pretty easily. And I have a finishing kit that came with it that's got these really nice alcohol baths that you kind of dip in one, and then you let it sit for about a half hour, and then you pull it out with this. They have like a strainer thing, and then you push it into the other one, and you give it kind of 2 alcohol baths for about 30 minutes, and then you can stick it in your nail bed salon if you have one of those to kind of finish the UV cure if you want. And but so far the prints, I've done 2 prints on it, and both prints have printed flawlessly, no problems.
So what resin are you using? As you know,
I'm using I'm using the Formlabs resin that comes in these cartridges now, and you slip the cartridge in the back of the machine, and you press a little, or you basically open the air vent, and the machine fills itself, levels itself, and it's got a very interesting wiper mechanism that comes and wipes the way that it peels and wipes the. I want to say it's not the mirror, but it's the window.
The surface bed. Mm-hmm.
Really makes for a clean peel. You know, compared to my other SLA experiences, I think that's the peel is really where the magic is, and I think where some of the challenge comes with SLA. And the Form 2 is just automated, just works.
Now,
it's flawless.
Let me ask you a question. Because they've gone with this cartridge system, are you stuck with using that particular cartridge until it's empty? And what if you wanted to go with another? How does that work?
So they have an open mode. So you put it into basically open mode, and then you type in some settings for the resin, and it obviously won't automatically fill the resin bed for you, but it does allow you. You're not stuck using just proprietary resins. However, for me, their resins are going to accomplish everything that any of the other resins on the market.
Well, I wasn't talking specific about using whatever you want to call it, third party. what if you wanted to switch? Because Formlabs makes several different, as you mentioned. They have not only their standard, what would you call it, aesthetic resins, which is black, white, and gray. They also have a durable resin now, and they have an elastic resin. So if you wanted to swap between them, how difficult is that? Because as you said, you had to put a cartridge in and it fits a bed. Now the version
Yes.
I have has a tray that can be removed. You put a lid on it, and then you can store it. Is that the same thing with the Form 2?
Same exact thing that you do with the Form 2. I think it. I'm not sure if it. I think once the resin's in the bed, the resin's in the bed. Yeah, but you basically need to have a build tray, which I think is about $150 thing, and you need to have one of those per resin that you're going to run. Otherwise, you're going to have to dump that.
Because the build trays with the Form 1 and then the upgraded version was about $50, which was still high, but not significant, especially if you wanted to run, which is what I did. I ran multiple resins and I just kept them in the tray and filled them when I needed to. So pretty cool. That part looked really nice. The plus. Now it still has to print the as I show my hand at an angle, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, and the reasoning for it is it still uses the tilt peel system as well as the initial wipe, or does it wipe every time that a new layer is done?
It wipes every layer, and it actually moves. It actually moves. The bed itself moves every time that a new layer is created. So I haven't really gone in and deciphered it and watched it super carefully, but so far, super impressed by the.
What resin is that component? It looks like from here there's a bluish tint to it. Is that a blue or is that
no? It's just a black. It's just a black.
Oh, that's the black. Okay, so that's just the aesthetic. So that's not your durable resin then.
No, I haven't used the tough resin at all yet. So I haven't used the tough resin at all yet. So just the black resin is all I've used, and I'll probably switch resins after I do a couple. I'll do a couple runs on this, a couple hundred runs hopefully, and see how much I can get out of one resin tank too.
Well, I hope you get your elastic resin in, or I'll have to go buy some myself because I'd really love to see how my new iPads come out. iPad, not iPads, EYE pads for my which thankfully Chris has been operating. iPads, not. Yeah. So I've got a few more items to cover real quick. Some of them I already talked about, which is the article, but I wanted to show a couple of things real quick. In this testing of these things, I had to get to the actual lenses in order to photograph what you see through the lenses. And if you remember, we talked about the Go 4D headset before, and it came with this really awkward brace that you put on your head. It wasn't like a band. And it's actually, for me, it kept the lenses way too far from the eyes. So it kind of ruined the effect of it. So I took it all off, and I find that this by itself actually is pretty cool and kind of creates a small enclosure. So I don't know, I'll have to talk to Steve about this, but maybe we can minimize what you get with it and lower the cost, and this could be a great competitor to my own product. Actually to the what is it, the Mattel viewfinder. So kind of neat. You'll find in my article that this thing actually has some decent plastic lenses, which was surprising. It's the same ones that are in their little Go 4D clip-ons. So just thought, for those of you who might have gotten one of these and said, man, this thing sucks because you can't really adjust it, just take off the bands and maybe mount your own elastic band system to it. But if you take them off, you can actually put them up to your eyes and they work pretty good. So that was kind of cool. I kept showing the green version, which was always keyed out, but I do have a red version. This is the NeoDVR Clippy, which has an old Galaxy S4. It's sad to say an old Galaxy S4. It's only 2 years old, but it's a 5-inch phone. So one of the reasons I designed the Clippy like that is so you could use it on a little larger phones than just the iPod. So there you go. And finally, in some more testing, one of the things that bothered me about the Humido headset is that really it's only good for smaller phones. So when I developed my bracket for it so that it would fit my phone system so that I could use the structure sensor, I was tied to the 6. Well, the 6 only has a 720p screen, a little bit better than that, which is not the best. 6 Plus is actually a fairly nice phone and has a good screen. So I came up with this. I had actually converted, I chopped off the original bracket, created a 3D piece to enclose it, and then enough space to put that. There's a rubber band for now, but I do plan to recreate this. The only problem with it, and I'll take out the phone, is the actual spacing inside is still for a 6. So I plan to redesign it and add more space around the sides to make it more 5.5 phone compatible, and create a few of those and then send it off to Humido. So if they want to easily redesign the front of it so that it supports a larger phone, they can go and do that. Still, I think one of the better headsets out there if you're looking for one. So shout out to them. They were actually at CES as well, showing off this, as well as their new Humido Mini, which was the nice little VR unit. I don't have it with me, a little clip-on type. That was part of the VR miracle that I sent out to all the hospitals, which I've gotten several thank yous from already. So that was kind of cool. Some people even actually ordered them for themselves. They liked it so much. So little side benefit from that. So that's about it from me. Again, look for the article soon on a comparison of a lot of these VR devices. Chris, anything we got our calendar, but you kind of went through all that last week. Anything else before we say goodbye?
No, I think it was an exciting time at CES, and we're still playing catch up. And it's been a great week. It just went by so fast, and we'll have some more items for you next week on another episode of All Things 3D.
Bye.